Howdy there, y'all. Welcome to the 26th edition of the Speakeasy Dwellers podcast. Is your host, Jared Blazik. And it is currently May 3rd at 11:36 p.m. Um, well, from the last time we did this podcast where we had a special guest at Miss Abby join us, that was all the way back on April 10th when I think I recorded that. It was either that April 10th or April 9th. But since then, school's been over. I'm now back up in my home state, no longer in South Carolina. I finished all my exams with relative ease. I studied for them, and I tried my best to do well on all those exams. But there are some stuff that are out of your control, with material that just isn't covered, or ideas just kind of don't click in on the last second. And you know what, the semester's over. It'd be really dumb for me to kind of swallow in that past. Oh, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. I can't really change what I can and cannot do in the past. Hindsight's always 2020. So at this point in my life, I just have to look forward to the next semester and what I'm doing over the summer, and making sure that I'm making even better strides to be better academically and socially. Because this past semesters plural have been probably the roughest times of my life that I have experienced. Because there's that stuff that happens in high school and all that drama that happened my senior year, but this was bad. Because at least when it was in high school, I at least had my family, somewhat readily available to me. When I'm down there in South Carolina, I'm 11 and a half hours away from home, and I just gotta work on myself in any way possible. So, but I think I did a fairly well job. The mental state that I had at the end of last semester compared to the one of this semester, just absolutely night and day difference. My roommate ended up becoming a lot more friendly towards me, and I had to brute force that relationship because because he's an awkward kid, right? As with most people that you meet for the first time, and having him be able to finally come out of his shell, and mostly through our shared passion of basketball, and us trash talking other teams in sports. It was just really nice to be able to finally be able to reap the rewards of my hard-earned efforts of trying to get that friendship going. Because I know my freshman year, it only took the second half of the year for me and my roommate to become like good friends, and now he comes over every other Wednesday to watch a TV show with me because they come out with new episodes every Wednesday. So I know that I'm doing the right thing, and that what I'm doing is, you know, not a detriment to society. That's not the word I want to use, but I'm trying to make a positive impact. I'm really doing my best here to be a better person, to be a better friend, to be a better, role model. And even though there are some people who probably will never say it that way, just knowing that there are things that I can reference, that I have faith that I know that I am doing the right thing in some way, shape, or form, even when other people say that I'm not. So that's kind of the situation going into um, the spring break here. But some crazy things happened between that last episode and this upcoming, or this episode that will be released that I'm recording right now at night. Uh, so I got a very interesting text that happened probably a day or two after I released the new episode, and you won't believe who it was. It was the person who I was trash talking, the girl, for like three distinct episodes. I think I mentioned them in the Speak Up Communicate Georgia Valentine's Day special. Um, let's see, In Between. I think I also mentioned them In Between. And I'm just going ham on this person, trash talking, giving my point of view on all these different things. And she actually ended up reaching out to me uh, after we don't talk for months, right? And I mean, I tried talking to this person plenty of times, not necessarily in person because I don't know what it was about talking in person, but it was just so awkward trying to start conversations with this person. And I don't know, that's probably something I'm going to have to work on personally, is being able to talk to people and make the first move. Not necessarily in like a relationship sense, but even in like a friendship sense, being able to just make that initiative and not have to rely on people to say hi to you first, initiate the conversation in order for you to, do this. Now, I do have a much easier time initiating conversations with guys than I do with girls, but that isn't to say that that I'm completely comfortable with starting conversations with guys because I'm not. I usually just sit there. If they don't recognize me, then I'm just gonna walk on my merry way. Or if they don't reach out to me in any way, shape, or form, I probably won't reach out back. So, and I mean, that stuff is just heavily, heavily, heavily um, amplified when it comes to talking with girls. But, that just comes with time, the experience, and just putting myself out there and having more faith in myself. Um, but so this person ends up reaching out to me and she's all like, "So I listened to your podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, great. If this person hasn't talked to me in, months and all of a sudden she starts talking about my podcast, that only means one thing and one thing only, and that means she heard me talk about them." And let's see if I can like bring up the text conversation here, get some reference points to kind of explain what I'm talking about. Let's see, here we go. Because I remember I saved everything. Um, so let's see. So she says, "So you remember how you told me about your podcast? Had a bunch of free time on my hands and I gave it a listen, right? Um, And no beef, I get that I wasn't the best friend starting second semester, so I totally get it. Could we talk about this at some point tomorrow, or could I call you now? I just want to clear the air. I also didn't listen to a lot of it. It was only the first 12 minutes of an episode, but it was enough to get the vibe that we need to talk some stuff out. I'm not upset, I swear, and I hope you're not upset that I listen. Please say something. Can I call you? And then I was just dumbfounded and frozen after I saw that text, and I was just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Because I just realized my consequences of actions. um, I know it's supposed to be, my actions have consequences, but it's a bit funny if you say it like reversed. Um, but let's see, hold on, give me a second. That's much better. Um, So I just sat there for probably 20, 30 minutes with that on open. And I'm just like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? I ended up getting my roommate involved because he knows about the entire drama. So he's able to give his opinion on it. And I'm just like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? And then I eventually say, sorry for the long response. No, it's not a good time to call. Just processing things for a bit here. Um, And she says, and I know we haven't spoken in person in a while, and I want to explain that a little too, because that's also me not being a great on my part. Um, and the conversation goes on, and we're trying to figure out times in order to talk. And then she says, "Then can we just call?" Because it ended up being very apparent that our schedules did not work out very well in order to have this conversation in person. So then she suggests, then can we just call and get this out of the way now so we can have a nice normal day tomorrow, perhaps? Right? And then she said yes. And I asked her if this FaceTime call was honestly, did she think it was going to be the best option here? And she said yes, she wanted to go to sleep knowing that I could wave to you and say hi in the hallway tomorrow. So that's the text conversation for a big old TLDR. And so she told me obviously she listens to the podcast and how I was my opinions of her throughout this entire situation. And to bring y'all up to speed, we were on the same floor, we're in the same major my freshman year, right? And she ended up invited me over to the study room a couple times, and we talked, and we ended up sharing a class. We were lab partners in physics class, and sometimes I'd be walking to and from Capstone, and she'd be, which is was my dorm during my freshman year, and she would sometimes like come up and say hi to me, even though I'd be minding my own business, which was nice to be able to have someone to just come up to you, even though you didn't want anybody to talk to. It's just nice to have someone just take that initiative, right? Um, and then the summer comes along, I go through a whole bunch of different stuff, and then fall semester comes, and we really don't talk. I'm in my own little bubble with my own group of guys. She's in her own bubble with like the only 4 or 5 um, civil engineering majors that are women in our class. So she's hanging out with all of those folks, and we just ended up growing a bit apart. And it wasn't that like we just were not like great friends for each other. It was just things just didn't work out between the both of us. But I did mention one time in my story that I was walking from point A to point B for a therapy appointment, and she ended up coming out of the blue, like out of the blue, ended up inviting me over to, not inviting me over. She ended up offering to drive me to therapy, which I just thought was like, huh, that's a very odd move for this person to reach out to, drive me to therapy. Obviously, I accepted it. She ended up coming over, hung out for about an hour before I had to end up going to leave. But um, but yeah, and then she ended up offering to like, because I told her about my plane situation, flying back up north for winter break, and then she offered to drive me back up to my hometown in New York because she also lives in New York City, which is about an hour 15 south of where I live. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're gonna be like really good friends this upcoming semester. And then next semester came, and it was like talking to a brick wall at a lot of points. And it became very apparent that it wasn't, again, like I already said, it wasn't the fact that we're good friends. We just maybe weren't good friends for each other. And if we were good friends, um, obviously things would probably worked out, but it was very apparent that we were living 2 different lives and living 2 different lifestyles. And even when she did say she wanted to have peace of mind and be able to wave and say hi to me in the hallway, that ended up never happening. Um, we haven't talked since then in person, which is no change from the way it was earlier. But this initiative that she said she was going to take in order to be a better friend, and I'm just living my own life over here. I'm not going out of my way in order to say hi to her and make things a lot more difficult than it already is. But um, because I mean, yes, I will take blame for the fact that I don't take initiative with this in conversation with and my friendship with her, and then I still complain about her not reaching out and stuff. But when I do reach out and I do try to make conversation, it's kind of met with a brick wall. So I guess that's the big turnoff, and I get hung up on the fact, and I hold grudges, and that just changes my entire opinion of a person. So am I setting unrealistic expectations that I'm having this friend pretty much 90% of the time initiate conversations? Yes, I'm setting very unrealistic expectations. But at the exact same time, um, that's just how I've always been. And my personality and the way I approach conversations on a social level hasn't really changed. So if we were good friends back then, when I didn't really do a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of initiation, we still became good friends, and she would go out of her way in order to do stuff. um, it's just it's no shock that I'm not doing that still, even though, because again, it's already happened. So I guess she just hasn't noticed that I just haven't made any efforts. in previous iterations. So it comes to no shock that I'm not putting any effort into this iteration. So I don't know. I feel like she does want to do the right thing and she wants to be a better friend for me, but as I ended up seeing about a month after that conversation, it was just it became very apparent that we just were not good friends. It wasn't like a personality issue. It was just there was just no time for me in her life. And if I wanted to make time for her in my life, I would need to go out of my way. And it just didn't seem efficient for me to make efforts for something that just didn't feel rewarding at the end of the day. So it's very interesting, all the comments that she's making, and how she tried to explain herself. And I really don't know. I mean, she said, "Oh, I ended up disconnecting," but so there's a slight issue there. Um, it really sounds dumb if you're listening to this on Spotify or listening not to this on Apple, but if you're watching this on YouTube, ended up having a little error on the recording part. The character that I have in here ended up disconnecting from the call and ended up changing the UI. So back to my previous point. Um, what was I going off about? Just trying to think. Um, it just didn't seem efficient for me to go out of my way in order to, hang out or talk to this person who I didn't feel like was very rewarding. Like I didn't feel like I was going to get anything beneficial out of this conversation. And if I did, I would be crossing my fingers and praying and hoping that I even got a response at all. So that's just not a sustainable model. And I found it interesting how she wanted to be better friends and she would try to explain herself. And it was just like, yeah, no wonder we didn't, stay good friends. You just got busy and, your busyness just didn't include me in your life. So this isn't really a shocker to me. We had similar things happen towards the end of last year. So, I mean, I've just accepted it at this point. And while it is maybe a shock to her that, we're not really the greatest of friends, it's not really a shock to me because I've just subtly acknowledged this fact and I've planned my life around it, right? So that isn't to say I haven't tried reaching out to her. I ended up reaching out to her at the beginning of finals, asking her how she was studying for everything. Nope, nothing. Left me on left me undelivered for that on Snapchat. And then um I ended up finding she ended up posting on her story and I ended up commenting on it. And then that's when she gave a really dry response and I was just like, okay, you want to be a better friend. You said that it's there in some instances it is your fault, and you want to be better at this. You want to be more attentive, and then you do stuff like, and then you also complain that I don't make attempts to start conversations. So here I am trying to start conversations, and then you just give me that, and it's kind of just confirming all the stuff that I've already told myself. We've been known that it's not a very fruitful conversation. It's going to be a very dry conversation, and that's just not going to promote a good friendship at the end of the day. So I wonder what's going to happen next semester. Maybe our schedules, you know, line up a lot more, but considering we're getting really deep into engineering, she'll probably do whatever she wants to do. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I'm not going to judge my life based on her life. And I wouldn't expect her to do the same for me. So I'm just going to do my own thing, live my own life, talk to my own people. But I just don't think, even though it'll probably upset her, um, with the abandoning of the friendship, I just think it'll probably be the best for me mentally to not be worried about trying to maintain whatever that is, if there is anything to maintain, right? It's just not worth it. So that's the situation with that. Um, let's see what else is there. Do. I ended up having a situation with my with my housing application. So to catch y'all up on the conversation I'm about to have with y'all, uh, I previously lived in a place called Park Place, which was the only continuing student housing available to me. And I felt very privileged to be able to live there. There's only like 400, 600 beds available. So this year when they opened up the application, I made sure I filled it out as soon as possible because I knew it was going to fill up because they also got rid of one of the other like two other housings and they provided it for first year students. So now it's only down to Park Place for continuing students. So I filled out that application, ended up getting denied from it a couple months later. Now, I also had an RA application live where that would provide me housing for next year. And I had that. I had interviews back in January, um, and I didn't get a confirmation email saying that I got denied until February. Now, mind you, the end of the year for my semester is at the end of April, and leasing season starts in like November, December. So here I am 3, 4 months behind everybody in the leasing department, and I can't just start looking for leasing because I still have all these other applications live, and I don't want to cancel this lease and make all these people upset. So I have to just hope and pray on this application that it goes through, and then now hearing that it didn't go through, now congratulations, now you're like 2, 3 months behind everyone else in the leasing department. And then plus it also didn't help the fact that I was traveling all over the US with the band in the month of March, so I wasn't able to visit anything. So by the time I got around to visiting all these different apartment complexes, it was already April, and 95% of the housing in the greater Columbia region, places within walking distance of campus were already taken. So it's been a struggle. I just recently found a three person group. It's going to be a 3 bedroom 2 bath place at this one place called Olympia Mills, and it's going to be 17 minutes away walking distance from the engineering portion. They got a couple bus stops in order for me to get to the horseshoe if I need to get there. Um, but I'm telling you, for that housing, it was a struggle to grab that housing. I ended up sliding up on a person's uh, job, not that job listing, but like apartment roommate listing, and we ended up befriending each other. So there was me and him, and then there was going to be this third guy that was supposed to join us. Now, the third guy, he said that he was going to commit to joining us. And then by the time we got the application, here I am filling it out as soon as possible. Um, and he ends up backing out a week after the application went through and says that he doesn't want to pay the $500 security fee, which is cheap, by the way. A lot of other people do like double rent. That's your, initial payment, your security deposit. So $500 is not bad. And then the $100 application fee. And me, that just ticks off both me and my current roommate, who now have to find desperately a third person because the rooms are filling out fast, and we were down to the only 3 bedroom room available. So we were looking for about a week or two, and these people come and go. I probably talked to at least 5 people, 5, 6 different guys, and some of them would commit and then would back out right before I would tell my current roommate that they're gung ho about staying with us. And I'm just like, and they also like talking about how it's too expensive, how they have better options elsewhere, and I'm just like, too expensive? I listed the price on there, and I listed, the place and the amenities for it. So I don't know what you're over here telling me it's too expensive. Um, if it was too expensive for you, you probably shouldn't have swiped out on a story. Like when you swipe on the story, I I interpret that you've read it and you acknowledge that, oh, okay, it's going to be $700 a month. Um, oh, you know, it's a three bed, two bath, and then you also know the location of it. So when you're asking you know, these questions that it's like, oh, you know, what's the lease? Where's the location? What's the layout of it? I'm like, I already told you. You should have read about this before, you know, reaching out to me. So we ended up finding a third person, and hopefully our application will be able to be done by the end of this week, and we can finally move on to divvying up who's bringing what, you know, the countertops, the TV, you know, toaster oven, anything under God's green earth. So that'll be fun. But I think what I'm going to do for the rest of this, you know, this break that I had, this summer break, is probably just relax, you know, talk to people, probably visit the high school at one point or another. Haven't seen those folks in, you know, 8 months, at the least 8 months. Um, that's probably almost a year since I've seen most of those folk. I'm sure they probably want to see me. At least I hope they want to see me. And then just try to live my own life, do what you know, do things my way, not necessarily get myself tied down to anything or anyone, and just, you know, live life one day at a time. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I think I'm gonna do for this year is live my life one day at a time, and not get too caught up on the future or on the past. I think that's a good life to live. So it's getting late, getting a bit of a headache now. So I think I'm gonna cut this one. It's not necessarily short, just not long. So if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of the episode. If you're listening to this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I appreciate you for your viewership. And, you know, if you think it was good, you know, maybe share it with another person. Maybe they'll also think it's good. So, with that being said, if I don't see y'all again, good morning, good evening, and good night. Bye bye.